So recently I had a friend reach out to me saying that over the past 2 seasons, he's been watching my journey where I literally started back training at about 103, 104 kilos. And now I've sort of progressed to the point where I'm around that 78, 80 kilos. And looking at how I did that, and he asked me the simple question is that, hey, I'm pretty much where you were when you started. I haven't done anything for quite a few years exercise wise, and I really want to get back healthy again and get back feeling like I'm fit and I have a little bit of quality of life back. How would you start if you were going back 2 years ago and starting again? Now, just before we go into this, just to give you a little bit of a background on myself, my name's Des Trindle. I'm 57 years old. I've been doing triathlon since 1983 when I did my first triathlon, which was the Nepean Triathlon down in Sydney at a very, very young age. So I've been around a little while. I haven't been doing triathlon consistently all that odd 40 odd years. There's been times in my life when through, normal life experiences, you get busy with work, you get busy with a young family, things like that, and you don't do anything. You become literally, you're too exhausted from day-to-day life, and you sit on the lounge and you watch TV at the end of the day, and that's pretty much it. And what you find during that time is you put on a little bit of weight. So a few times in that cycle, I found myself pushing over that 100 kilo mark and feeling very unwell and very unfit. So why I wanted to make this video was after that little conversation that we had was, what would I do in the next 90 days if I was preparing for a race? So let's dive into that, and let's look at the first thing is, what sort of mistakes do beginners make when they're kicking off? And when you do kick off and you're coming back into any type of fitness, what I find is we're very enthusiastic, but we train too hard and we train too often. And that can result in a few things. It can result in injuries, and it can result in sort of losing motivation through overtraining. So they do random workouts. So when you're kicking off, there's no structure to what you're doing. You're just going out and doing what you feel like. You're not allowing enough time for recovery. And to me, recovery is where you really do gain the fitness levels. And if you were anything like I was in the early days, I was very biased towards one of the disciplines in triathlon because I came from a cycling background. So that was almost always my default session. If I didn't feel like running, if I didn't feel like swimming, I would go out and I would do that. So now we were talking about 90 days. We have 90 days until we want to do our first race. Appropriate given that we're literally 90 days out from the new season here in Queensland. So how would we attack that 90 days? So if I was going to break the 90 days, I'd break it into 3 specific blocks. Firstly, the foundation block, 1 to 30 days would be just our foundation where we're building consistency in our training and we're building a little bit of an engine. Second block, we'll call our build block. Now, what I'll do in that build block is from day 31 to day 60s, just to start increasing our endurance and building some confidence around the workouts that we're doing. And then finally, our race preparation block, our third block in that cycle. So days 61 to days 90, and we're going to call these race preparation block. And this is where we're preparing specifically for the actual race day itself. So let's head back a little bit. Let's go back into the foundation block. So this is our day 1 to day 30. And as I said, we're building consistency. So we're just showing up, and consistency, I want you to remember that because that word is the one that will keep coming back and back and back. It's better to be consistent with your workouts than go, okay, I missed 3 or 4 workouts and do a makeup type workout or a hero type workout or whatever you want to call that. You're better off doing shorter workouts and being more consistent in that approach. So regularly getting yourself into that routine is what I'm saying there. Block 1, 2, the foundation is all about easy aerobic training. So we're not out there smashing ourselves. What we want you to do in block 1 is just train at a conversational pace. So if you can't talk while you're out running or out riding, then you're going too hard. Don't try to talk while you're out swimming, or you'll probably take in a bit of water. But have that same feeling there as well. So training effort should be around, that zone 2. And I'll link in the description a great little zone calculator, which you can use. And it's a free resource on one of my websites. So that'll help you calculate where you should be training. And block 1 is very much all about zone 2 training. So the key message from this stage is all we're doing is building an engine. We're not testing it. And we're just going to be consistent in our workout. Let's move on to block 2. Now, block 2 is day 31 to day 60. And what we're doing here is we're building. So we've already now established our consistency. We're out there, we're doing it regularly. We've built that, we've got our body used to moving again. Now what we want to do is we want to start increasing the endurance. So increasing the length of those sessions and building our confidence. So we're also, we're going to focus here on slightly longer sessions and some little bit of pace. We're going to introduce around probably 15% of the total time in our week. We're going to start introducing some race pay efforts, and we're also going to introduce our first brick session into that. And what I mean by a brick is literally going for a ride and then getting off and going for a very short run of 5 to 10 minutes to just simulate that little bit of a wobbly leg feeling that you first experience when you get off the bike. So block 3. So block 3 is very much about our race preparation. And here we're looking at days 61 to days 90. So we're preparing specifically now for race day. And I'm going to say here, we still should adhere to that 80-20 principle as far as 80% of our workouts or 80% of our time in our workouts is spent in that zone 2. But we're introducing now some more specific race pace intervals within our session. We're also going to practice some open water swimming. If we have access to it, it's always good to be able to get out there and swim where you're not just following a white line up and down. We're also going to start thinking about our nutrition on race day. Now, if we're going to do a sprint triathlon, it's not going to be as critical as if we're going out and doing, say, a half Ironman or an Ironman. But saying that, if we're preparing our first 90-day block and we haven't done anything for a long time, I wouldn't be jumping in and doing an Olympic distance or a half Ironman or an Ironman race. I'd be focusing on something I can enjoy, something a little bit like a sprint triathlon. So around that 750, 20k bike and a 5k run, or even one of the enticer, the smaller type ones where I think they're about a 300 meter swim, a 10k bike and a 2 or 3k run. It's just getting yourself going and having that first one as well. So what we also want to get from here, and the key message, I guess, for our race preparation block is we don't want anything new on race day. So we're going to practice what we're going to do on the race itself in training. So never ever go out in the race and practice some nutrition or some gel or some liquid that we haven't actually practiced with in training. It might upset your stomach. Never use equipment. So never go and get a new set of shoes the day before a race and then wonder why our feet are all cut up at the end of the session. So practicing race day is the key message from that one. Now, we've got 3 blocks there. We've got block 1, block 2, and block 3. Those 3 blocks we should bring back into what we call a periodisation session. So those 3 blocks are 30 days or roughly 4 weeks in that block. So week 1 might be 5 hours of training, week 2 might be 6 hours of training, and week 3 might be 7 hours of training. But importantly, week 4 is where our fitness is built. It's in our recovery week. Week 1, 2, and 3, all we're doing is loading and starting to fatigue our body. So week 4, what we want to do there is we want to reduce our volume by 30 to 40% in total. And what that does, it allows time for the body to recover and it allows that fitness adaptation to take place. So within our 3 blocks, so we're going, block 1, we're doing that periodization. Block 2, we're doing that periodization. And then block 3, we're obviously doing that again, where the recovery week will also be a taper week leading into the race itself. So let's talk about our weekly structure. Now, our weekly structure is going to be very dependent on working around our work and our family life. But this will just give you an example. So Monday, I myself always like to have Monday as a recovery day. Or a complete rest day. So I'll either go out and do a nice easy recovery bike ride or a recovery swim, or I'll have the whole day off and maybe just do some stretching and have a walk with the dog or something like that. Tuesday could be a swim or a bike in the morning and a swim at lunchtime. Wednesday could be a run, and we might look at some strength and mobility or stretching in the afternoon. Thursday, we hit the pool again and we go for a bike ride, or we do a bike ride in the morning in a pool. You've got to work this around your life and structure. Friday, we go for a run and we do some stretching and recovery in the second session. Saturday, we might do our long ride for the week, so our endurance ride, with a little bit of a short brick run off that bike once we're introducing that in that second block. Sunday, we might get out there and do our open water swim in the morning, if there's a swim group that you can join, and maybe a long run in the afternoon, or you reverse that depending on how you want to structure it. So weekly totals, what we're looking at mostly And this can vary. I've seen people just do 2 swims, 2 bikes, and 2 runs as absolute complete beginners. If you've got a little bit of a base fitness there, or you feel a bit more motivated, then what I recommend is have 3 swims, 3 bikes, and 3 run sessions, and then throw in your stretching and your little mobility sessions in around that as well. Let's talk about race week itself. So the final week is, if we look at that block 3, will be our recovery week, but what we're calling it here is our tapering week. So we're reducing our volume in that week 4, so our taper week. We're introducing, or we're maintaining some intensity within those workouts because we don't want ourselves to shut off completely. So they're just some very short, intense hit outs. So if we're running, it might be a few 100-meter strides or something like that. If we're on the bike, it might be just spinning the cadence up a little bit. But what we're looking for in that recovery week, or the taper week, the final week, is to stay fresh and not panic and do any long additional training. And that's the main thing. You're not trying to gain fitness in this final week. You're just trying to get yourself to the race feeling nice and fresh, very confident that you've done the work and ready to go, because you have, if you've followed this type of structure, you're quite there. So in closing, if you've got to this section, if you've got through to the whole 90 days, you will go into a race, you'll be fit, you'll be healthy. And that's the main goal of this, is to be injury free. So, you're not trying to be an elite triathlete in 90 days. You're just trying to get there and be comfortable that you can go around and you can finish and you can be confident in that. And then you can build on that moving forward. So if you made it this far in the video, well done. I thank you for watching. I link in the description there, I have a web page set up where there is a whole heap of free resources. So I mentioned earlier, there's the Zone 2 calculator. There's also some free training plans and things like that you can get there. There's even a DIY to make some of your own gels and things like that. So I also do a weekly blog on that, where I just post things that I experience out there as well. So anyway, once again, thanks again. If you've subscribed to the channel, thank you, I appreciate it. If you haven't, you know the drill. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to throw them down in the bottom. And until next time, guys, stay safe out there.